In the early spring of 1972, in the heart of Manhattan's towering skyline, a baby boy was born who would one day make millions of people question everything they thought they knew. Not with fear, not with panic, but with curiosity. He wasn't a loud child, but he listened. While the other kids wrestled over whose turn it was at the swing set, he was busy flipping through encyclopedias. And I don't mean picture books, I mean the big ones. Encyclopedias, volumes, Latin words, ancient history, space science, the weird, the unexplained, the downright bizarre. That curiosity, it never left him. As he grew older, his appetite for answers got stranger, deeper. He didn't just want to know what things were, he wanted to know why. Why people believe what they believe. Why we fear certain shapes in the sky. Why some stories are remembered and others erased. But even a boy with a mind full of questions has to make a living. So he drifted west, to Hollywood. Now, he wasn't the flashy type. You wouldn't have seen him strutting the red carpet or grinning in magazine spreads. He preferred the shadows, behind the camera, behind the mic. He wrote jokes for comedians. He directed internet series before the term YouTuber even meant anything. He voiced characters in cartoons, played in video games, helped produce shows you might have watched and never even noticed his name roll by in the credits. In fact, he lent his voice to a beloved animated series, set in a fantasy world where the elements could be bent to the will of the gifted. He voiced characters in role-playing games that spanned galaxies. That same calming voice you've probably heard by now was, for a time, speaking lines for wizards and warlords. Still, he didn't feel quite home. So he tried something else. With his brother and his wife, he ventured into business, a different kind of business. Let's just say, a green one. When laws around cannabis began loosening in the early 2010s, he saw the future coming, faster than anyone else. Together they founded a company that legally delivered cannabis in California. It was called Speedweed. It wasn't a joke. It was a logistical operation that changed the way medical marijuana was distributed across the state. He went from voicing wizards to delivering weed. But the questions didn't go away. See, you can bury curiosity for a time, but it never really dies. Not if it's real. Not if it's who you are. In the year 2020, while the world spun into uncertainty and shutdowns and sickness, this man picked up a microphone again. Only this time, he wasn't pretending to be a wizard. He was himself. And he had stories to tell. So he launched a YouTube channel, just a little one at first, no studio, no network, just his voice, a microphone, and one goal: to ask why. The first episode was about math. Yep, math. A few clever puzzles, some did-you-know facts. Fun stuff, but not exactly viral. But then he turned a corner. He started talking about stranger things. Aliens, secret societies, hidden messages in ancient texts, paranormal encounters, disappearances, whispers of governments knowing more than they let on, mysteries that had lingered for centuries, some that had never been told at all. And he didn't just tell the stories, he investigated them, he dug deep, he showed every side, what the believers said, what the skeptics said, and what might actually be true. It wasn't fear-mongering, it wasn't a show for tinfoil hats. It was something else entirely. It was reasonable. And the viewers, they came by the hundreds, then thousands, then millions. But he didn't do it alone. Oh, no. He had a partner, a skeptical, wide-eyed, overly excitable goldfish, a cartoon goldfish, floating in a digital bowl. His name, Hecklefish. Hecklefish wasn't real, of course, but in some ways he was very real. Hecklefish said all the things the host didn't. He interrupted. He made jokes. He called the government the lizard people. He asked the dumb questions, the smart ones too. He believed the unbelievable just enough to make you laugh. And then wonder, what if? Together they created a strange little duo, the calm, calculating narrator and a fish who wasn't afraid to say, "I told you aliens were real." Week by week the show grew. The name, you've heard it by now, The Y-Files. Every episode, viewers were taken down a rabbit hole. Sometimes it was about a haunted ship, sometimes it was an unsolved cipher, other times a real story that history had forgotten, or maybe trying to forget. By the end of each show, he brought it all together, weighing what we want to believe against what the evidence says. He never told you what to think. He just asked you to think. And that made all the difference. But success, as they say, comes at a cost. The show took off. But behind the scenes, the creator was falling apart. Between researching, writing, recording, editing, animating, scheduling, and running the business, the hours stacked up. 50, 60, 70 hours a week. No vacations, no rest. And then his health gave out. An infection started in his tooth. It crept into his sinuses. He needed surgeries, rest, time off. But the fans didn't know. All they saw was the channel slowing down, and the rumors began. Has he been silenced? Is the government after him? Was he taken out by the deep state? Some said the content had changed. It felt less personal. Maybe AI was writing the scripts now. Maybe he'd sold the show. But the truth, he was just tired, human, in pain. But eventually he came back. Not with explosions, not with confessions, just the same voice, the same fish, the same question, why? He never set out to be famous, never wanted to be a guru. He simply wanted to explore the strange corners of the world that most folks never look into. And he doesn't want them to. He just wants them to ask. Ask the weird questions, the uncomfortable ones, the ones that make you tilt your head and say, "Wait, could that actually be true?" He wants people to wonder, to question, to search. And maybe that's the secret. Maybe it's not about knowing the answer. Maybe it's about having the courage to ask the question. His name is J Gentile, the curious voice behind the Y-Files. And now you know the beginning of the story.